welcome everybody, and welcome to people who are online. First of all, a huge thanks to Sean Hanley for organising this event. Secondly, I'm really pleased to welcome to CEAS for the first time Dr. Mikołaj Cześnik, who is a political scientist from Warsaw, from the confusingly named SWPS University of the Social Sciences and Humanities, which is one of the leading universities in Warsaw. And Mikołaj is very well known for his work on elections, voting, democracy in general, public opinion. And in particular, he's involved in monitoring Polish elections on a regular basis and has lots of really interesting information about elections, which those of us who just read the Polish media don't get to, well, we do get to see it sometimes, I suppose, but you know more than we do. And since we're all really, really interested in the topic of the October 2023 elections, so it's really wonderful to be able to have Mikołaj here to tell us about his research project and what they're finding out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for inviting me here and giving me this opportunity to share with you a few thoughts and observations about Polish elections. Thanks, Marta, Sean, Tim, Alan, and all the crew. Paulina, thank you for the technical support. And I must say, it's an awkward situation for me because normally when I present my research, I do it to the academic audience. This time I have my friends here and my family as well, who came with me to London. That's probably the very first time that I am presenting my research in front of my son and my wife, which is a sort of fun, actually. Inga spent a couple of years here in London, so we are actually quite close from her neighborhood, so to say. So it has a very special feeling to us. All right, yes, I cut the whatever. First of all, the picture, the photograph that you see, it's well, those of you who follow the Polish politics, they know that this is actually the 74.38. That's the turnout that was observed, that was in the very last parliamentary election, and this is the record high turnout in the whole history of Poland. Actually, in the First Republic, we did elect the kings, but it was not a popular vote. We had the popular vote and the popular right to vote since 1918, and in the Second Republic, before the Second World War, it was never higher than 74%. So the very reason that so this is the very reason why I am going to talk about turnout and the reasons behind so high, from the Polish point of view, turnout. Actually, just yesterday I checked your general elections, and as far as I remember, it is around 60, 65, but not higher than 70 for the last 4 or 5 elections. Am I right? Okay, so even for the British standards, this 74%, it's a good result. I will show you in a second more data on that, and then you will understand my excitement, and not only my, it's the excitement of all the people that follow Polish politics, because this is something unusual. Well, there are countries like Belgium or Australia where 75% is nothing, especially in Belgium. But from our point of view, it is really something that is it's a qualitative change, I would say. Thank you for the presentation. I must say, I must add to that to this information that I am, since the last century, the last millennium even, I am part of the Polish National Election Study, and from 2022, I am the principal investigator of the POLNES. So most of what you are going to see is the data from the Polish National Election Study. The idea, the plan of the presentation is the following. There are actually 5 points. The aim and the rationale for the discussion and the context, that's the things that this is something that I will show you in a second. I want to provide you with some, I would say, more general information about the Polish politics and the trends in turnout, for example. Then I would like to focus on the polarization and the polarization of Polish society, and it links and the links between polarization and turnout. And it has, on the one hand, it has a particular meaning for the Polish situation, but it has also a sort of a value for more universal discussion about the links between polarization and turnout. And then I am asking a question that is not so often asked, at least in the Polish discourse on politics. Why polarization? Why the society is so polarized? Because it is polarized. I will show you the data in a second. So what I'm bringing back to the discourse, to the academic discourse, is the notion of class, which hasn't been used for a long time in our political discourse. I think that, well, in the 90s, Pakulski and who was the other? The Waters and Pakulski, I believe. They were saying that the classes are dead, the death of classes. I think that was the name of the book. And now it seems that not only classes as the ontological entity, but also the class discourse can be useful, and it's in this sense is back. So I will start with, as I promised, with the presentation of the team and of the co-workers. Many of the names are probably well known. As I said, the Polish National Election Study, it's a project that actually was launched in the 90s, and for more than 2 decades, Radosław Markowski, that many of you know, he was the principal investigator, and then I took over 2 years ago. You know, probably Ben Stanley, Michał Wencel, Piotr Zagórski, Hubert Tworzewski, or Krzysztof Jasiewicz. So there are names who are either in the team, the current team of the project, or basically these are people who still work with us or cooperate with the Polish National Election Study. So let me move on to the first slide, which relates to the context. In this particular picture, you see the turnout in the parliamentary election in Poland in the last more than 30 years. As you see, the 2023, it's like very different from the rest. Especially in the first 2 decades, the normal, so to say, Polish turnout was around 50. Even in 2015, when we had this critical election that brought to power Law and Justice, peace, the turnout was around 50.9. And in 2005, we had only 40%. And in the very first entirely democratic election in Czechoslovakia, it was, as far as I remember, 96 in the Czech Republic, and in Slovakia, 95. In our country, it was 43.2. There is something about the polls, about that's the first, because this one is it's not semi, it's in 1/3 democratic, in 2/3 not democratic election. So basically, this is the very first pure, like entirely democratic parliamentary election. And as you see, the turnout is 43.2. So what we see in Poland is it's something that we don't see in Europe much. In your country, there is a stabilization of turnout. In many countries, especially in our region, the turnout in the last 30 years went down. In our country, it went up. And it's even though there are only 11 elections, this correlation is statistically significant. And well, these curvilinear models are even more statistically significant. So it's something that is not only in our region, but in the whole Europe, or maybe in the whole democratic world, something at least interesting, or something that needs to be properly explained. The funny thing with the last election and this much higher turnout is that actually it entirely changed the political system. The higher, the so high, for the Polish standards, the so high turnout actually produced a situation in which winners are the winners as winners. I define winners as those who vote for the party that forms the government after the election. So I voted for the party, and this party forms the government, or the parties, because actually in this particular case, in 2023, sorry, but the slider, the clicker doesn't work, so I need to use my fingers. As you see, this group of those who voted for the parties, the three coalitions that form the government right now, this is 40%. The losers, 34%, and the abstainers, those who do not actually get involved in the in this collective action, these people, this is only 1/4 of the population. Normally, before, the situation was different. The highest number, the biggest, this group was in 2007 and 2019. But normally it was around 1/4. Now it's 40%. And you see the proportions, especially in 97 or 2005, the percent of those who abstained, who were, outside the electoral market or politics, was much bigger. Actually, in 2005, it was 60% of the whole society. People who didn't have any representation. Well, if you understand representation in this very simple way, that there is someone that you voted for, and he got elected, or she got elected. There are two actually reasons for this higher turnout, technically speaking. First of all, there is much higher retention. Retention can be, it's borrowed from geology, but retention in this particular sense means those people who stayed in the electorate. If we define electorate as those citizens who vote. So, as you probably know, in Poland, the turnout instability was a huge problem. It was not only low, but it was super unstable. The biggest group of Polish society, actually, or citizenry, were those people who voted from time to time. They were shifting between voting and non-voting. That was up to 50%. Now, what we see in 2023 is that actually from the group of those who voted in 2019, who were eligible to vote in 2019 and voted in 2019, 95%, almost 96%, also voted in 2023. Of course, this analysis does not include those who died, that's obvious, and also those who were not eligible to vote in the T0 time, yes? Also, the mobilization was quite unique. It was much, much higher. Again, here it's the other side of the same coin. In this particular case, we analyze how many of those who in time 0 didn't vote and could vote, but didn't. How many of those voted in time 1? As you see, normally in Poland, it was around 30, 40%. In 2023, it was 48% of those who actually were mobilized. If we take a broader perspective, you will see that actually on both the mobilization and the retention, it went up. In 2023, we recorded the highest number of retention and the highest percentage of those who were mobilized. Okay, this is the content. So now let me move on to the question of polarization. Actually, the very reason why we in the POLNES now, why we are actually focusing on polarization is the not only, but among other things, is the public discourse. In public discourse, at least in our country, everybody is talking about polarized society. We are so polarized. I mean, we cannot talk to each other. We are too polarized, actually. The polarization is described as something that is so annoying, you know, so tiring. To some extent, if you follow the American situation, it's quite the same. People, quite many people, they actually they are tired of growing polarization, and media, of course, they also their narratives are and their discourse is quite the same. Beside that, if we take a more academic perspective on that, yes, first of all, polarization it's a fact, and it's a useful category when we analyze the societies and politics. And we know that polarization can affect turnout, and quite often it actually affects turnout. And there is plenty of literature on that. There is a quite good explanation why polarized societies and why in polarized societies the turnout goes up, because when societies are heavily polarized, political parties and social groups intensely mobilize, and they actually provoke strong emotions, engagement in politics. So people start thinking that actually the electoral politics is about, you know, defending your values, your beliefs, and it's not a funny game anymore. It's a war. It becomes a war. So the election becomes a sort of battlefield in which you actually fight for the future of your family, of yourself, of your people, of your group, your class, whatever, your church, your community, and many other sorts of collective entities. So the political parties then emphasize the importance of elections. Their whole discourse, their narrative, the electoral appeals are about this is, and actually we are observing this right now in the European. Well, you probably already forgot about it. Yes, the the European Parliament election is coming, and actually in our country right now, the dominating appeal is this is the crucial this election is crucial. It's like the something. This decision is crucial for the next decades actually. So we know quite well that the higher the polarization on the aggregate level, the higher the turnout. But what we lack is the micro logic. Why people who are polarized? Because we, as individuals, we are not polarized. If we are polarized, then we go to the doctor. Yes, we should not be polarized. I mean, individually, we can be polarized if we, as some collective entities, we have very different views or perspectives on many things, economy, history, whatever. If I am myself polarized, then that's a different story. It's not for the political sociologists or political scientists. It's as I said, it's a different issue. So what we do right now within the Polish National Election Study is we explore and we try to explain the micrologic behind the pattern. And the hypothesis behind, well, we have a hypothesis, first of all. And the hypothesis is that the more ideologically, also programmatically, the more distant you are from the others, and the others are not all the others, but those people who are on the other side of the continuum. If there is a big group of people who are entirely different from you and who are politically active, you feel a pressure, you feel there is something, a kind of feeling that makes you vote, basically. You want to defend yourself, your people, people like you. Because on the other side of the continuum, there is a horde of those who, if they come to power, they will destroy you. Look at America. I mean, if Trump wins, I mean, it will be a disaster. And of course, it works the other way around. If Biden, the second term for Biden, it's a disaster. America will die. Of course, I'm putting in a very simple way, but this is basically in many cases, I believe that this is actually the very message that is being sent. So in our case, we are interested whether in this particular case, in 2023, those people who are ideologically distant are more inclined to vote. Well, I told you, I promised that I will show you some data on polarization. This is actually the varieties of democracy data. I think that's 2001, 2002. Okay, so here is Denmark, Luxembourg, Portugal, or Estonia. And here we have, actually this is in Polish, but there are many Polish speakers. So this is Hungary, Poland, sorry, you can't see it. So this is Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, sorry, Spain, Belarus, Montenegro, Slovenia, so on and so forth. So as you see, well, there is plenty of data showing that we are actually pretty polarized even for the European standards. But what is even more important from our point of view is the question of changing time. We take the very simple continuum, very simple scale, which is left-right. Okay, at least the political scientists here, we know that left-right is not an ideal measure. It's like McDonald's. I mean, nobody likes it, but everybody goes there, yes, and eats at McDonald's. We don't like left and right, and we know that left and right, it's not ideal, but on the other hand, people, at least in Poland, at least since 1990, 1997 until 2023, they recognize the scale, and then they know where to put themselves and the parties, etc., etc. So what we see here is that on the left-right scale, this is taken from the surveys, from the Polish National Elections Study surveys, which are post-electoral. It's like BES, the British election study. It's exactly the same sort of concept and project, or the national election study in America. So what you see, it's a relative stability from 97 till 2015, and then you see a sudden increase after 2015. This is the standard deviation. This is the so-called bimodality coefficient. Yes, in our case, in Poland, the distribution on the scale is more and more bimodal, meaning that there is more and more people on the left, more and more people on the right, and the center is smaller and smaller. It's diminishing. So what we do is we see something, because if you add the voter turnout to that, you will see a clear, especially after 2015, a clear link. It's more polarization and more turnout. But this is all on the aggregate level. What is behind it? We, as I said, we have the hypothesis that this is the sort of relationship. The probability of voting goes up as you, well, it's a metaphor, as you move from the center to the right or to the left. It doesn't matter, actually, whether you go right or left. And we, with a quite, I wouldn't say complex, but with the statistical analysis, we actually test this hypothesis, and we see that there is, in 2011, 2015, there is some sort of relationship. It is much stronger in 2019, and it is super strong in 2023. The further you are from the center, the more you are inclined, you are likely to vote. The funny thing is that actually those of you who are familiar with the political science literature would say, yeah, this is pretty easy. That's the affective polarization effect. Now, actually, I'm not showing this to you in here, but this measure, we call it the level of ideological radicalization, is not correlated with the affective polarization. There is an impact of affective polarization as well, but they are independent. So there is something else. There is not about the parties. And of course, I know that in the discussion, we will probably go to the parties, and you will ask, okay, where are the parties? The parties are there, but I am not talking about the parties. This is yet another mechanism that is probably that operates here, that is making these people vote. But this is part of the story. This is interesting. I mean, at least to the Polish National Election Study team, we think it's interesting. I have already presented this paper at the MPSA in Chicago. People liked it, and I actually received a lot of comments. But this is, in this particular paper and in this particular approach, we do not ask the even more interesting question: why polarization? I mean, why these people are more and more polarized? Is it something natural? Is it something about the people themselves? Is it something external, internal? What's what's the very reason for the polarization? And here we actually introduce two categories. First of all, the category of class, which, as I said before, it was forgotten in the Polish political discourse. Oh, I think because there are some specialists on other countries, it was not heavily used, so to say, in analyzing, investigating what was happening in the region. The class analysis was weak, I would say. Some of there were scholars who were using a sort of class analysis, but I know that in our country for more than 20 years, it was basically, I would say, impolite to use the term class. Basically, it was, and still, especially my older colleagues, they are pretty reluctant to use the term class. So, on the other hand, it seems that this class discourse and the class analysis is more and more useful, basically. What we see is, of course, you are familiar with the situation in Poland after 2015. It was a change. It was a politics that was done differently. And there are specialists in here, even in this room, who know more than I do about more universal, so to say, mechanisms that were actually moving the situation and were behind the situation in the Central Eastern Europe. But in our case, this change in politics, and that was something different that Orban does in Hungary. Even though there is many people have this predilection to actually compare Orban and Kaczynski, and they actually see a lot of similarities. I do see similarities, but I also see a lot of difference between the two politicians and Fidesz and PiS. So what I want to say is that in our case, what we observe actually, it's a growing importance of the category of the interest, and interest here is actually defined broader. It's not only about economy. It's also the symbolic interests. It's about, it's basically broader, but nevertheless, it's primarily about the economic issues. It's about, actually Kaczynski opened the discussion about social justice and the fairness of what happened after '89. And it was a turning point, and I think it was, to some extent at least, it was a game changer. So this part, as I told you, the first part of my presentation is based on the paper that is already written, and it already has been revised. This part is still, it's a very draft. Actually, you are lucky to be the very first one to see these results. So maybe in Poland the classes are back, and maybe today the electoral politics is less about the rosary and it's more about the wallet. And I see that people recognize the famous phrase by Krzysztof Jasiewicz, who asked in the late 90s and early 2000s, czy to portfel, czy różaniec? Sorry, but it sounds it sounds much better in Polish, whether it's about the wallet or a rosary. So In here, I will show you the first analysis of the voting behavior of the classes. And our definition of class is, it goes beyond what has been done in our sociology, especially by Domański, Słomczyński, and many others who focus entirely on the profession. Actually, in our case, we think that one should define the class in a more nuanced way. We think that the main assumption is that there are those people who are higher, there are those people who are lower. Those who are higher are basically socially strong, and those who are lower are socially weak. And there are three variables on which our class scheme is based. This is the social class of the majority of the ancestors, the profession, and the combined position of the scales of wealth, influence, and prestige. So we have two major classes and one, so to say, the middle class it's a class that is it transfers people from the lower class to the upper class, or the other way around. So the lower class are those who are working class or of peasant origin. They are those who do some manual work. It's basically the working class in your British understanding. And these people are at the bottom 20%, the lowest 20% of the distribution on scales of wealth, influence, and prestige. In ISPP, there is this question on the social position or social, it's a social position. We actually extend that to wealth, prestige, and power and influence. And we ask each of our interviewees to place themselves on these scales. So people either place themselves high or low. So this is the lower class. This is the higher class. The higher class are those who, when asked, they say that majority of their ancestors are either from the gentry, from the bourgeois, or from the intelligentsia. You are probably familiar with this specific Central Eastern European or Eastern European stratum or class, who occupy the more prestigious professions, and those who are actually on the top 20% of the distribution on those scales of wealth, influence, and prestige. And the middle class is very heterogeneous, because these people are those, are those who are in between, basically. So we have two, so to say, clear types, and we have the middle class, which is like almost everything. Yes, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Let me move on to the voting behavior of across classes in Poland. As you see, the smaller parties, like the third way, this is the party that is a sort of odd coalition of the peasant party and the party, the newly formed party of Szymon Hołownia, who is the current speaker of the lower house of our parliament of Sejm. So it's an odd coalition, but the party came third. And as you see, there are no differences between the upper class, middle class, and lower class. But in the case of two major parties, the Law and Justice and the Civic Platform, there is a there is a clear difference. The lower you go on this social ladder, the more support for the law and justice. 14.6 compared to 54.3. In the case of civic platform, it's exactly it's asymmetrical, as you see. It's 50% in the upper class and 19 only among those people who are from the lower class. If we go to the left, right, and actually, if we put it, if we combine it, the left, right, with the other of the scales that organizes politics in Poland, which is the Solidary Liberal. For those who are not very familiar with the Polish politics, in our country, the left-right is mostly, which is quite funny, related not to the economic issues, but more to the symbolic issues. If you are on the left, it means it doesn't have to do with what you think about the taxes or the welfare state. It's about abortion, gay marriages, abortion I mentioned already, yes. The church, Kaczynski and Tusk, yes, because this is also heavily personalized. But people do have their perspectives and preferences regarding the economic issues. And this is actually covered with the Solidary Liberal. And they used to be entirely independent from each other. In 2023, it is, well, it's not entirely independent, but still the correlation is quite weak. So what we observe is a growing, but slowly growing, a growing relationship between the two. In 20, maybe 40 years, what I expect is that they will actually overlap, but not now. So what we see, and what is even better seen on the second one, we see that the upper class and the lower class, they are pretty far from each other. How do I construct these circles? They are we have two dimensions. You have the mean on one dimension and the mean on the other dimension. This is the very center of the. Actually, it's not a circle because the circle is like how do you call it in ellipse? How is it in? Oh, thank you. So it's ellipse then. Is it ellipsis? All right. So anyhow, this ellipsis, yes, it's so the very center is in the point where there are two means on this dimension and this dimension, and the standard deviation is the either the height or the, what would it be? The basically how, oh my God, this is too difficult for me. Yeah, width, height and width of the ellipses. What you see in here is that the two groups are not in the same place in this two-dimensional universum, and they are actually, it does make sense. If you are in the upper class, you are more liberal and more to the left. If you are, well, it makes sense in the Polish case. Okay, it doesn't make any sense in the, I don't want to say in the normal case, but if you know what is behind the left, right, and Solidary Liberal, then you understand that if you are in the upper class, you are more liberal and more leftist, and if you are in the lower class, you are more to the right and you are more solidary, which actually in Polish case means you are pro-welfare, you are yeah, it's basically the welfare state. It's like the Bavarian CSU, roughly. Yes. While on this side you have the liberals who are economically liberal. And now something that is particularly interesting, and I think it shows that this class conflict goes beyond the economic issues, the economy. It's a question about which is very, very important nowadays in Poland because of what is happening in the East. So we also asked in the last survey that actually was done in November and December. What would you do in the event of military attack on Poland? And as you see, there is it's a clear difference between the upper class and the lower class. What's my reading of that? I mean, if you are a member of the lower class, it means that you are socially weak, and you know that you are socially weak for a reason, for a good reason. It's not. Well, in the 90s, probably you thought that this is your fault. It was, I mean, at least the official propaganda and the official discourse was, well, those who are better, not even better equipped, those who are basically smarter and hardworking, they go up, and if you are a loser, you lose. It seems that this, I don't have any data from the 90s that could be actually compared with that, but for me, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you don't want to defend a country, a system in which you are, I don't want to use, vulgar words, but if you basically, if the system is not fair, and you are not actually, it is against you in a way. So let's see the time. So let me move on to the conclusions. First of all, there is hard data on the effect of polarization on turnout, and it's not only on the aggregate level. We find support for the thesis that actually it's a micro level mechanism or logic. People are motivated to defend their values, their lifestyle, and they recognize probably better what their interests are. So the situation, the decision to be made, it's much more clear than it has to be 10 or 15 years ago. This is already said. It seems that the political discourse and electoral politics that especially in the 90s was about big ideas, and it actually was not about what particular social groups want and can get. Some of the social groups, like some parts of the rural of those who live in the rural areas, those people were basically like forgotten entirely. Not only also in the public discourse. Basically, no one it was no one's concern. These people, Andrei Leper was the only one who actually thought about these people and who tried to, one way or another, to defend them, to fight for them. So now we have the structure of electoral competition is more clear. There are two parties which have a very clear social basis, and it seems that their voters, they know what this party, not only what they promise, but also what they do if they win the election. This is actually the difference between 2010 and nowadays. There is a party, and this is Law and Justice, who in an active way, actively, promotes the interests of those who were socially weaker or socially weak. And of course, they did and they do a lot of other things, but you must bear in mind that in the last parliamentary election, more than 7.5 million people voted for them, for one reason or another. And in our opinion, at least to some extent, 3, 4, maybe 5 million of these people, they did it for good reasons, and it was sort of rational from their point of view. Programmatic. I have already told you that. The future research should address actually this question: to what extent those trends that I showed you, that I described, to what extent these trends are universal? Is it something about the polls, or is it something that in the right context, maybe in 5, 10, 15 years, would also happen, or will also happen in, I don't know, Slovakia, Estonia, Slovenia, and elsewhere? Thank you very much. I think it wasn't too long, and now I am open to your reaction, suggestions, questions as well. I will sit, okay? It's not a problem. Thank you.